Hello guys, and in my hands today I have the Seiko SNK 603K1. Now the reason I've got this watch in is I'll be doing my first ever AP case mod. So we're going to take that lovely textured dial and drop it into an AP style case. So join us as we take this watch and turn it into this. This is an awesome AP inspired Seiko mod featuring that blue dial we just saw, a different handset, and this awesome looking case from NamokiMODS watches. So let's see how I managed to build this watch, and I'll guide you through some of the process steps right now. So as you can see, the clear idea behind getting this watch was that dial. It's this deep blue, so it's not as bright as the sort of AP blue. In certain light, like in the sunlight, it does shine up a bit. In most lights though, it will appear quite a deep dark blue or even black in the evening as well. Now we're actually going to change up those hands to something else you may have just seen. Those are going to come from another Seiko 5 I had. We were actually thinking of doing a different dial design until we spotted this one. So what I'll do in this video is show you a quick sort of step-by-step of how to do it, but let's have a look first at the case that this is going to go into, because I know a lot of you are probably interested to see that. So if we drop the Seiko 5 down, so these are the case parts that we get from NamokiMODS watches. I'll drop a link in the description of this video. So when you order an AP style case, I think they call it the AP Pro case or something like that, I was actually quite pleasantly surprised with the overall quality of these. So it's quite big. I'll measure it for you in just a moment, but I think it wears about 42. It might actually be 41, but it's definitely quite a chunky case. It feels bigger than most Seiko 5 sports or SKX style cases. So it definitely suits a bigger wrist, but there is one caveat with that, which I'll come to. So you've got a sapphire crystal, a flat sapphire crystal. You've got the kind of, what would you call them, bezel screws. Now these you don't need to touch, because one thing I was worried about is having to load this from the front or something, or have to play with these screws. You don't need to worry about those. The crystal, as far as I know, is just seated straight in, just like a normal case crystal, but it's already installed for you when you get it, so you don't need to play with that. We've got this hexagonal crown, of course, unsigned, which is lovely. When I'm making a homage watch like this, I definitely want either Seiko parts or just completely plain, no logos of any kind, ideally. You've got these kind of screws that go into the lugs to hold the bracelet on, and the bracelet's really the star of the show here. I'll show you that bracelet in a minute. But interestingly, you get some little pins that go through these screws into there. Now on the back, you've got quite a generous exhibition case back. You've also got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 screws to unfasten in order to lift this whole piece up. Now, there should be a decent amount of water resistance with this case. Again, you can have a look at the product listing on NamokiMODS watches to check in with that. I can't remember. I think it's at least 100 meters, but it does feel quite safe and secure when you're working with it. I did actually buy another one of these cases to use in my own personal watch, and one problem I had is actually the crown. So as far as quality goes, everything is good. It finished nicely, fits well. One thing I did find though is be careful with the crown, because it's quite easy to strip the threads on the crown itself. So it is a screw down crown, and it's got a little gasket in there. There's also a little black gasket in the tube, which you probably won't see on the video. Just be careful of that if you're going to use this case. But there aren't too many threads on the crown itself, which I think might be part of the problem with this. But you've just got to be very gentle when you tighten it. If you tighten it too much, it's gonna strip the thread. So the cases aren't perfect. They are good, very good, but that's one thing I would definitely consider taking a look at if you're going to be ordering one of these, or perhaps maybe in the future they'll beef this crown system up a little bit. So how do you actually use this case? How do we put this seemingly small dial into this big watch case? Well, you will need to fit a chapter ring. So here's a brushed steel chapter ring I got from Watch and Style. Notice in here there is actually a chapter ring already. It's that polished, well, I don't know if it's officially called a chapter ring or if it's just part of the case, but anyway, there is that polished lip already in there. You can actually fit a regular chapter ring like so and press it up into there, so it actually goes up against that polished ring and it brings the size down so that it fits a Seiko dial perfectly. Now you'll have seen me use quite a few SNK model dials in SKX cases and so on, and bigger cases. The nice thing with Seiko is they always seem to have the same dial size, and pretty much any dial fits in pretty much any case. So that's one of the benefits of sticking to Seiko parts and Seiko mods. Now the bracelet, this one will be covered in plastic still, so I will show you the full reveal later. Again, it's not signed, there's no fake logos or any kind of logo on there, which is nice. It's got that lovely shimmer. When you do a wrist roll on this, it's the best wrist roll you can do, in my opinion. It's just gorgeous. You know, really, yeah, I could just play with this all day in the light. Really nice looking design, of course, Gerald Genta and AP inspired. It is pretty much, could you say this is a direct copy? Probably. But then again, we use various other copies of the parts, sub bezels spring to mind as well. So, you know, this is maybe a bit of a Marmite mod, not for everyone, but what I've tried to do here is stick to original Seiko parts such as the dial and find the right donor dial for this build, and the hands as well. So let me get this unpacked. I'll share a bit more of the process with you, and let's go measure that case as well. So here's a little update. I managed to take off the crown. I've taken off the back. As you can see, there's quite a big space in there. Then I also fitted the chapter ring. Now that's a little bit of an effort because you've got to actually sand down the metal chapter rings for SKX size to fit in this case. It's only a small difference, but you do have to just take off like 0.2 of a millimeter in diameter or something. So I just did that with sandpaper. You don't need any special equipment really. And then I actually used my crystal press to pop it in, but once it's in there, it does actually move. So if you've got a printed chapter ring with lines or anything like that, you're gonna have a hard time to set it in the right orientation. But then nonetheless, all good. The other thing I noticed is I actually repressed the crystal because it wasn't seated properly. Now that was the case on both the cases I received. Now I've also seen these cases on AliExpress, so I wouldn't be surprised if they are the exact same ones. They're all about the same price. It's not an especially expensive case. That's the key thing to remember here. It is quite cheap compared to an SKX style from one of the more regular suppliers. So yeah, just bear that in mind. You get what you pay for, but you certainly get the look and pretty good quality here. Just a little bit of fiddling with some of the parts. All right, so the next stage is actually going to be disassembling this watch. I'm also actually going to put the dial on a NH36 so we get that better movement. I'm going to put the dial at 3 o'clock as well. So I'll assemble all of that as one part, and then I'll show you how we go about fitting it into this bigger case. So now I've just put the blue textured dial on an NH36 movement at 3 o'clock. So that involved taking the dial feet off and attaching it with dial dots. And I've also got some nice sort of sword style hands, which are a bit more reminiscent of the AP style we're going for here. And those hands are from the SNKE 51K1, if you're wondering. Another lovely blue dial Seiko watch. Now, in order to put this in here, it's not as simple as just dropping the case on. This case is far too big inside here for any standard Seiko movement. So what we will do is actually use one of the supplied pieces in here. So you get a few extra parts. You get some spare screws for attaching the bracelet and the case back. And there's another set there. These are mostly for that case back. But the thing we need is this spacer. So this is a simple plastic spacer, and to be honest, you find these on a lot of cheaper watches, even homage watches, where the movements they use are not really made for the case. So it's quite easy to use, and I'll show you how to do it. So the way I do it, which might not be the best way, I don't know, please let me know in the comments. It's the first time I've tried it, but the way I found easiest is actually put it upside down, like a cup, like a bowl, and then here is obviously the crown, space for the crown. So what we will do is just position that on our casing cushion, and then find the crown and drop it in like so. So basically you've got the movement pushed up into that spacer, and the dial is just popping out the top a little bit, and we can access the crown hole there. So let me just check 1 minute that that is in properly. I can't do it at this angle, and then we'll see about putting it in that case. So now I've got the movement in the movement holder here, hands on, everything's ready. I'm going to drop the case on the top of this, and obviously try and keep the crown at 3 as I do it, and hopefully it will press on nicely. There we go. So this is already looking pretty good. Now I will probably take it out and redo it over on my workbench, just so that I can check for any dust and so on, and check the alignment of the dial. But it seems to me that we got it pretty well straight away. I think it just needs a touch clockwise, but that will probably sort itself out once we put the crown in. Now, interestingly, when you look at the back of this now, this is what it looks like. So you've got obviously the movement. This is the NH36. You've got, it's working, so you can see the balance spinning there. And you've got this pretty, I'd say somewhat unsightly plastic ring around it. Fortunately though, when you put the case back on, that is all mostly hidden, but the movement is definitely quite deep in there. The reason they do this is so that you can fit multiple different types of movements into this case. So it is a generic case really, not specifically made for Seiko parts, although seemingly they do fit quite nicely. And as you can see, it's pretty stuck in there. It's not going to fall out anyway. And that's your first look at that gorgeous textured dial, a real AP style Seiko mod coming up. Now I've got the case back on as well. Moving around, you can see what that looks like. It actually does look pretty good. The case back is clearly a little higher than it would be in, let's say, an AP or manufacturer movement watch, of course. And at certain angles, you can see that white plastic spacer. However, most of the time, you're just there to obviously check the movement's running and just see that nice spinning rotor, and it works well. It's this porthole style with those 8 screws. You do get a couple spares of these as well, which is nice in the kit. So I thought, before I get the bracelet on, let's have a look at the measurements of this. So I've got my caliper here. So if we go down the sides, it's kind of hard to pick a place to do it. Let's just go as near as we can to the crown, and that is about 42. So yeah, I thought it might be in the region of 42. I think sometimes they are labeled as 41. I think this is running low on battery, and that's why it's flashing, and it's about 12.37 thick. So yeah, about 12 millimeters thick and 42 millimeters across. So it is quite a big case. Not as thick as a lot of the other Seiko cases, and interestingly, I'm sure it could have been thinner because there is a bit of a space between the rotor and the case back. So how are we going to get the strap on next? So this is of course the gorgeous AP style bracelet. Now it does have this fold over clasp mechanism. I can't remember the exact correct direction this should go in because there is an order to closing this. So I'll have to check that and perhaps switch it next time. But just to show you how that works, the push buttons on the side, still some plastic in there, that's why it's being a bit of a pain. When you close it, you'll close this side first and then this side. Now, if you think of a regular bracelet, I believe it should be this way around, where you go from this side. I'm wearing my Tudor Black Bay here. So if you see, that goes in and then this way. So let's try and replicate that with this one. I'm not totally sure if that's the right way to do it. So it should be this side facing the top of the watch. So this side is going to go on the top. So you've got these two teeth like end links and they simply slot into there. And then on the sides, you've got some screw holes. So what the screw actually does is goes through here, through this, and then into a little divot in there. It does not go all the way through. Again, I'm not sure how AP does it, but or any other models with a similar bracelet. But in this case, you actually get a set of 4. You'll see them in the bag there, like that. It's like a little, almost looks like a nail. It's got the threading on the top and a pin long enough to go through this into the look there. So let me do that and I'll show you the finished product on the bracelet. So there you have it, guys. It is complete and on the bracelet. And if you've not seen this bracelet before, it is an absolute dream. It sparkles, especially under sort of bright spotlights. It really shines, it's gorgeous. And it all came together very well, I thought, in the end. The cases aren't especially expensive. I think maybe $160 by the time you add shipping, taxes, and so on. And for that, you're getting the bracelet, the case, the crystal on the front, the back, the crown, the spacer, spare screws, which is very helpful, even spare screws for the bracelet, which are a bit tricky to fasten in there. So overall, as a package, it's great, and you can have some fun, and you don't even need a lot of tools. For example, you don't need even a case back opening tool, you just need a screwdriver. So overall, a lovely watch, a lovely build. I'm really excited to have tried this. I will for sure be using more of these cases in the future. And yeah, I'll keep you updated with new builds. Now, I did mention at the beginning regarding sizes, so let me just put this on my wrist so you get an idea about the size. Wouldn't say issue, definitely not a thing that would affect most people. But this is my 7 3/4 inch wrist. As you can see, the watch wears pretty well for my wrist size. It's nice and big, and there's that gorgeous glimmer as it catches the light on that bracelet. Really nice watch, perfect size for me. However, this is the full size bracelet. So if you've got a wrist bigger than about 7 3/4 inches or 19.5 centimeters. So if you've got an even bigger wrist than me, which is not going to affect many people, this watch won't fit you. And I don't believe you can get extra links. This is the other issue with these case sets. You can't just buy another crown, you can't just buy another crystal. You have to buy the entire thing again. So you might be able to get away with buying 2 of them and combining the parts for a longer bracelet, for example, or the other one I damaged the crown on. I can't just order the crown, I've got to order the whole thing. But as a overall package, if it goes well, it does look awesome. So hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Follow me on Instagram for orders and other builds. That's Seikomodsdubai. Don't forget, I got this case from Mod Mode Watches. And if you need any other parts, check out my referral link for NamokiMODS as well. Anyway, I'll catch you next time. Stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.